So sort is a modifier management system that exists across HardOps, Boxcutter, and KitOps. So basically by pressing Control tilde, we can see that the option for sort modifiers is here. And we'll be focusing on basically sort array and sort bevel. If we hover over sort array, we see that sort array will ensure that array modifiers are placed after any Boolean modifiers are created. And we see that bevel with sort bevel ensures that bevel modifiers are placed after any modifiers created. Like I said, the sort modifiers is shared across multiple tools. So if we expand the subpalette for behaviors inside of Boxcutter, we see that the first option is sort modifiers, where the same options basically exist. And even if we use the hops button and we go to the KitOps tab, we see that at the very bottom of the KitOps tab is an option for the sort modifiers where you can get in depth with the intimate options as well. So just letting users know that sort is there across all of our tools, sharing the same options. Alright, so starting out, we'll just take our cube, we'll press Q, and we're just going to add an array. And of course, because of the rules of sort that we discussed, by pressing Control tilde, we see that basically any Boolean modifiers that we place are going to be before array because of the rules of sort, meaning that when we perform a cut, this cut is going to impact our instances as well. And this is the way that we want things to be. We want to be able to cut our main object, and it happens with all of our instances, so that way our work is being minimized. However, let's say that we up the ante and we press Q and we add a bevel on top, but we also press 1 to set our defaults, and then from here we alt-click sharpen in order to add a weighted normal. If we look at our modifier stack, this is what our modifiers is currently looking like. So we basically have everything being arrayed, beveled, and then a weighted normal being added after all of the Boolean activity. So we can continue working on this, and because of the beauty of sort, we're able to have everything work instead of just having our modifiers being appended on the end and us having to manually reorder them. So whenever sort's working out great, it's great. But let's say that we wanted to no longer affect the bevel. So we're just going to basically add an ignore flag by basically pressing space at the beginning of the name of bevel. And what this means is that on the next cut, instead of being automatically sorted before the bevel, which gives it a nice fillet on the edges, we're looking at a situation where it's actually just going to be very rough. However, this sets us up to add a subsequent bevel on top of this in order to just grab this edge in particular, and all these new ones that are being created that are just bypassing that sort. And if we look at our sort settings, we press Control tilde and we expand on our modifier settings, we see that basically our ignore flag is set to space. So you can actually change the character to be whatever you want, but for us, we just have it default set to just space. But at least now users can manually change it to whatever they need to. But the next thing I want to talk about is just having sort just stop altogether. So basically, if we put an underscore, this means that basically everything that happens beyond this point is being considered static and will no longer be dealt with sort in any capacity. So now we're adding these cuts, but the most interesting thing about these particular cuts is they're being placed after the array. So we have something very unique happening with this, but just letting you know that at any time that you want to just simply bypass the rules of sort, that is why these things exist, because normally sort would just be this overbearing master. However, we felt that there were some backdoors needed to just be able to escape such things in the event that it was just getting unruly and you were needing to just go completely unique with some particular changes on a piece. So let's just Control Shift click on bevel inside the Q menu, and we're just adding a new bevel just on this edge. And this is what we're looking at so far. So just like that, you can see how effective it could be to be using stop and ignore flags whenever it comes to using sort inside of HardOps and Boxcutter. So let's just press Q. We'll shift click ever scroll in order to boot it up in modifier mode, and by pressing shift spacebar, we can now just scroll through these modifiers, and we see that, you know, nothing is being bypassed because of render visibility is being toggled off. And best part is that in F12 we have no issues there because we're no longer having to use render visibilities in order to bypass these things and set flags because of the underscore and spacebar system, but just want to give a little bit more emphasis on why these systems exist, so hopefully users can utilize them to their fullest. Another way to look at this is basically gaining additional versatility whenever it comes to using the sort system inside of HardOps, Boxcutter, and KitOps. But let's try this another way. So we're just going to remove the array, and we're just going to press Alt-X to bring up mirror. And by using modifier, which can be brought up by just pressing X to jump to defaults, we're just going to mirror modifier this over to the other side. So now that there's a mirror at the very end of the stack, this means that on our next cut, it's going to attempt to sort the modifiers to be in the proper order. But I actually was thinking that it would have placed the mirror before the bevel, but proved me wrong. So now we see that as I'm performing these cuts with Boxcutter, that they're also appearing on the other side of the model because of sort. But let's say we wanted to go off the reservation and we wanted to do something unique like add an antenna. Well, let's just go to the modifier and we could just add a spacebar, and from here, if we just draw a circle, we're basically bypassing sort and we're able to draw it uniquely on this side. And just like that, we're able to begin just doing things on one side that we don't even have to worry about replicating on the other, because it would normally have done that by default. But sometimes you just want to go unique, and instead of just having to go in and just fandangle your modifiers, it's just easier to just go in and just mess with the name a little bit and just bypass it altogether.